The night they sold her, the moon was full. Not the gentle silver kind that poets wrote about, no. This was a predator's moon, vast, swollen, and bleeding pale light over the jagged peaks of Black Hollow Valley. It washed the forest in cold brilliance and turned every shadow into something watching. Orlea Vale stood barefoot on the frostbitten stone of her pack's courtyard, her wrists wrapped in ceremonial silver thread silk. Not bound, but close enough to feel like it. The entire Vale pack had gathered, not to celebrate, to witness. At the center of the courtyard burned the alpha flame, a sacred fire lit only during coronations, executions, and bargains. Her father stood before it, spine straight, chin high. Alpha Darius Vale, once proud ruler of the Eastern Territories, now a desperate man. Across from him stood the reason for the silence suffocating the air, the Alpha King. Cale Draven. He didn't wear a crown, but he didn't need one. Power rolled off him in invisible waves, dense, suffocating, ancient. His black coat shifted like liquid shadow around his tall frame. His hair was as dark as a moonless sky, falling carelessly over sharp, sculpted features. And his eyes, they glowed faintly crimson under the moonlight, not wolf, gold, not pecamber, red, the mark of the high alpha bloodline. The bloodline that conquered, the bloodline that destroyed, the bloodline her people whispered about in fear. Orlea had expected a monster. She had not expected him to be beautiful. That realization made her hate him more. You understand the terms. Cale's voice carried across the courtyard. Deep, smooth, terrifyingly calm. Her father swallowed. My daughter will be your mate. In exchange, you will withdraw your forces from our borders and cancel the blood debt. Blood debt. The words echoed through Orlea like a death bell. 2 winters ago, a Vale warrior had killed a Draven envoy during a territorial dispute. The punishment had been swift and merciless. Villages burned, warriors slaughtered, trade routes destroyed. The Vale pack had been starving ever since, and now she was the final payment. Cale's gaze shifted. To her, it wasn't a glance, it was possession. Orlea lifted her chin. If she must be sacrificed, she would not tremble. I accept, Cale said simply. The fire roared higher as if the night itself had approved. Her father stepped toward her, his voice lowering. Forgive me. She didn't answer, because forgiveness implied choice. 2 warriors from the Draven pack stepped forward, not touching her, just flanking her, a silent reminder, you belong to us now. As she passed Cale, a strange current snapped in the air. Her wolf stirred, not in fear, not in anger, but in awareness. Cale paused mid-step. His crimson eyes flickered. For a fraction of a second, shock, then it vanished. She told herself she imagined it. Hash, the journey north they traveled through the night. No carriage, no comfort. Orlea rode a black warhorse beside Cale and his elite guard. The wind cut across her skin, but she refused the fur cloak one of his warriors offered. She would not accept kindness from enemies. By dawn, the forest changed. The trees grew taller, older, thicker with ancient magic. The air hummed with something heavier here, primal, dominant, Draven territory. At the top of a cliff overlooking the valley stood the Obsidian Keep. It was less a castle and more a fortress carved from the mountain itself. Dark stone towers spiraled upward like claws reaching for the sky. Silver banners bearing the Draven wolf sigil snapped violently in the wind. Orlea felt it the moment they crossed the gates. Power, it pressed against her ribs, tested her, measured her worth. Cale dismounted in one fluid motion and turned toward her. You will be treated with respect here. She slid from her horse without his help. Respect? Her voice was sharp. Is that what you call purchasing a bride? His jaw tightened slightly, but his tone remained steady. It was your father who offered. The truth stung. She hated that it did. I am not yours, she said quietly. A dangerous stillness fell between them. You were given to me before the alpha flame, Cale replied. By wolf law and blood oath you are. Her wolf growled inside her chest, and to her horror, it wasn't entirely in protest. Hash, the marking ceremony that evening. The Draven pack gathered in the grand hall. Massive chandeliers of iron and crystal cast fractured light across black marble floors. Warriors lined the edges of the hall, watching her with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. some with disdain. She was from a weaker pack, a conquered one. At the far end of the hall stood a raised stone dais, upon it a carved wolf throne. Cale ascended first. He didn't sit, he waited. Orlea walked forward alone. Every step echoed. This was not a wedding. This was a claiming. An elder stepped forward, ancient and sharp-eyed. Do you, Orlea Vale, accept the bond under the authority of the Alpha King? Her throat felt tight. If she refused, her pack would suffer. Her people would die. She lifted her chin. I accept. A ripple moved through the crowd. The elder turned to Cale. Do you, Cale Draven, claim her as mate and future Luna of the High Court? There it was again. That flicker in his eyes, something unreadable. I do. The elder nodded, then seal it. The hall fell into absolute silence. Cale stepped toward her, closer, closer. The scent of him wrapped around her, dark pine, winter smoke, and something uniquely male that made her pulse betray her. Her wolf pressed forward eagerly. No, not eagerly, hungry. Confused panic shot through her. This was wrong. She was supposed to hate him. Cale cupped her jaw, not cruelly, not gently either, deliberate. Look at me, he murmured, low enough only she could hear. She did, and for the first time she didn't see cruelty. She saw restraint, as if he were holding back something enormous. Then his fangs extended. Gasps echoed around them. Orlea braced for pain. But when his teeth pierced the sensitive curve of her neck, the world shattered. Heat exploded through her veins, not agony, not violence, recognition. Her wolf howled, not in terror. In claim, Cale froze, his hand tightened at her waist. You feel it? He breathed. It wasn't a question. Orlea's knees nearly buckled as a pulse of ancient magic surged between them. Threads of light, silver and crimson, spiraled invisibly around their bodies. This wasn't a political bond. This wasn't obligation. This was a true mate bond. Impossible. The Alpha King did not have a destined mate. The High Alpha bloodline had been cursed generations ago, or so legend said. Cale pulled back slightly, his breathing uneven for the first time since she'd met him. The hall erupted in cheers, unaware of the truth hidden in that moment, but she saw it in his eyes. Shock, relief, fear, and something far more dangerous, hope. Later that night, she stood alone in the chamber assigned to her, vast, dark, illuminated by moonlight streaming through towering windows. Her neck still burned where he'd marked her, not painfully, intimately. A knock sounded at the door. Her pulse raced. Enter, she called, steady despite the storm inside her. The door opened. Cale stepped inside. Without his coat, without his crown of dominance, just a man in black silk shirt and dark trousers. But somehow more dangerous like this. They stood facing one another in silence. The tension was suffocating. You knew what she said finally. His jaw flexed. I suspected. Suspected what? That the curse might not be absolute. Her heart thudded. What curse? He walked toward her slowly, carefully, as if approaching something fragile. My bloodline cannot form true mate bonds, he said quietly. Every union is political, controlled, cold. Her breath caught, but you, his eyes darkened. You shattered that the moment you stepped into the courtyard. The air between them thickened. You expect me to believe you're some tragic king, she whispered. No. His voice lowered. I expect you to feel what's between us. As if summoned, the bond pulsed. Her body reacted before her pride could. Heat coiled low in her stomach. Her wolf pressed toward him again. And this time he didn't hide his reaction. His control cracked. Orlea. Her name sounded different in his voice. Not possession, reverence. He stepped closer. Close enough that she felt his warmth. Close enough that she saw the faint scar cutting across his collarbone. A warrior, a king, a man bound by something darker than cruelty. If this bond is real, she said shakily, then why attack my pack? Pain flickered across his face. I didn't. Silence. The words hit harder than any blow. You led the forces. I punished a murder. He cut in. But I never ordered the village burnings. Ice slid down her spine. If not you, then who? Cale's eyes hardened. Not at her. At something else, someone who wants war. A distant horn suddenly echoed through the night. Long. Urgent. Cale's expression changed instantly. Battle. Ready, that, he said darkly, is not a welcome call. The castle shook faintly as another horn blast tore through the air. Her wolf rose. Instinct screamed. Danger. Cale turned toward the door, but paused. He looked back at her. And in that look was something that made her breath hitch. I will not let anyone use you against me, he said. Before she could respond, the doors burst open. A bloodied warrior stumbled in. Alpha, he gasped. Southern wall breached. Cale's eyes blazed crimson. By who? The warrior swallowed the veil pack. Orlea's heart stopped. That's impossible, she whispered. Her father would never, would he? Cale's gaze slowly turned to her. Not accusing, not yet, but the air between them shifted. War had arrived at their doorstep, and she stood at the center of it. **** Part 2. The war that shouldn't exist ***. The horn blasts didn't stop. They tore through the night like wounded beasts, echoing across the obsidian towers of the keep. The air trembled with urgency, boots pounding across stone corridors, steel unsheathing, wolves howling as warriors shifted mid-run. Orlea's heart slammed against her ribs. My pack wouldn't attack, she said, but the words sounded fragile even to her own ears. Cale didn't answer. He was already moving, not toward her, toward war. Stay here, he ordered. The command in his tone might have once infuriated her, but now it unsettled her. I am not your prisoner, she snapped. He paused only long enough to look back at her. No, he said quietly, you are my mate. The word hit harder than any chain ever could, and then he was gone. The southern wall, image https://png, png tree, com/thumbback/fh260/background/20,002, 151,222/png tree dramatic, medieval, castle under attack at night with, Fireand Smo, image 20,869,570, web, image https://artfiles, alpha coders, com/282/thumb19, 120-28203, jpg, image https://images, pond 5, com/castle, wall 2 slowly, burning, footage 0602420337 iconal, jpeg, image https://images, pond 5, com/fire torches ancient, wall 169,824,832 proof still. JPEG. Orleia didn't listen. She ran, down spiraling staircases through torch-lit corridors, following the metallic scent of blood and the roar of battle. By the time she reached the southern battlements, chaos reigned. Draven warriors clashed with attackers along the stone ramparts. Steel met claw. Flames licked up wooden siege ladders. Wolves, massive, powerful, leapt from tower to tower under the full moon. And among them she saw the sigil, the silver crescent of the veil pack. Her stomach dropped. No, she breathed. A warrior lunged toward her until he realized who she was. His blade lowered hesitantly. Luna, he began. She ignored him, her gaze locked onto a familiar form across the wall, broad shoulders, ash blonde hair. Scar across the brow, her brother, Lucian, she shouted. He turned mid-strike, shock flashed across his face. Orleia, he shifted back to human form with brutal speed, blood streaking his chest. What are you doing here? She demanded. What are you doing here? He shot back. We're getting you out. Her breath caught, getting me out. Before he could answer, a wave of force slammed into the attackers. Cale, he didn't need a weapon. He was the weapon. His wolf erupted from him in a surge of midnight, fur and crimson eyes, larger than any Orleia had ever seen. Nearly the size of a warhorse, his roar shook the stones beneath their feet. The Veil warriors faltered. Fear not just of strength, of legend. Cale tore through the front line with terrifying precision, not reckless. Controlled, every strike deliberate, every movement lethal. He wasn't fighting in rage, he was defending. And suddenly that mattered. Lucian grabbed Orlea's arm. He's controlling you, isn't he? We heard he marked you by force. Her neck burned at the accusation. He didn't force anything. She snapped. Lucian froze. You're defending him. I'm telling you this makes no sense. She shouted over the chaos. Why are you attacking? Lucian's expression hardened. Father received word at dawn, a message sealed with the Draven crest. It said the king planned to execute you at first light to send a message. The world tilted. That's a lie, she whispered, but even as she said it, the realization clicked. Someone wanted this. Wanted blood between their packs. Kale shifted back to human form mid-battle, grabbing Lucian by the throat and slamming him against the stone. The air crackled with dominance. State your purpose, Kale growled. Orlia rushed forward. Stop. Kale's crimson gaze flicked to her, but he didn't release Lucian. He's my brother. That made him hesitate, barely. Lucian struggled but held Kale's stare. We came for our Luna. A dangerous silence fell. Kale's jaw tightened. Your Luna stands in my keep by choice. Lucian looked at her, not at the mark. At her eyes, is that true? This was the moment she could end it, say she'd been taken, say she'd been threatened. Her pack would retreat, the war would stop, but it would be built on a lie, and something in her refused that now. I walked into the ceremony, she said clearly, and I accepted the bond. Lucian stared at her as if seeing a stranger. Has he bewitched you? Kale's grip tightened enough. Orlia snapped, her voice carried, not just as a sister, as something more. The bond pulsed. Her wolf rose to the surface, not fully shifted, but present, powerful. Draven warriors stilled, even Kale felt it. For the first time, they were witnessing her strength. There is deception at play, she said, forcing calm into the storm. Someone forged that message. Kale released Lucian slowly. Bring the letter, he ordered. A Veil warrior stepped forward cautiously, offering the scroll. Kale tore the seal open. His expression darkened. This is our crest, he said, but not our ink. Orlia stepped closer. The parchment shimmered faintly under moonlight. Magic, not wolf magic, something older, something forbidden. Kale looked at her, and this time there was no suspicion, only understanding. We have a common enemy, he said. Before anyone could respond, a scream tore through the battlefield. Not from either pack, from the forest below. The trees exploded outward as something massive surged from the shadows. It wasn't wolf, it wasn't human. It was twisted, elongated limbs, blackened veins glowing violet, eyes empty and white, a corrupted shifter. Gasps rippled across both armies. Witchcraft, Lucian whispered. The creature launched onto the wall, claws slicing through two warriors at once. Kale shifted instantly, but Orlia moved first. She didn't think, she leapt. Midair she shifted. Her wolf burst free in a flash of silver fur and luminous blue eyes. She was smaller than Kale, but faster. She collided with the corrupted beast, knocking it back from the edge of the battlement. Claws met claws, teeth snapped. The creature shrieked, dark energy pulsing from its wounds. It smelled wrong. Rotten, poisoned. Kale joined her a heartbeat later, their wolves moving in instinctive synchronization. Not practiced, not trained, instinct mate. Bond, they flanked the creature without speaking. Orlia lunged low. Kale went for the throat. Together they tore it down, the body convulsed once, then dissolved into black ash. Silence fell, heavy, breathless. Both packs stared at them, not as enemies, but as something else, two alphas. Standing side by side, Orlia shifted back first, chest heaving. Kale followed. For a moment, they simply looked at one another. And something unspoken passed between them. We fight better together. Lucian stepped forward slowly. That thing wasn't ours. Kale nodded, nor mine. Orlia's mind raced, forged letters, corrupted beasts. An enemy hiding behind both packs. This isn't a rescue, she said quietly. It's a trap. Kale's eyes darkened. Yes, another horn sounded, but this one came from inside the keep. A different tone, lower, more urgent. A guard sprinted toward them. Alpha, the dungeon, someone has released the prisoners. Kale's expression turned lethal. Orlia's pulse spiked. What prisoners? He didn't answer immediately, and that silence terrified her more than any scream. Finally, he said, the witches. The night was far from over, and the truth about the so-called cruel Alpha King. It was only beginning to surface. The battlefield had fallen into uneasy silence. Veil and Draven warriors stood shoulder to shoulder now, breathing hard, watching the black ash of the corrupted beast scatter into the wind. A common enemy, a shared threat, but witches. Why are witches imprisoned in your dungeons? Lucian demanded. Kale's crimson gaze sharpened. Because they tried to assassinate me. Orlia's breath caught. That creature, Kale continued, nodding toward the fading ash, was their creation. Another horn blast echoed from inside the keep. Deeper this time, vibrating through stone and bone alike. Kale turned to his commanders, seal the gates, no one leaves the fortress. Then he looked at Aurelia. You stay behind me, she bristled, but she didn't argue, not this time. The staircase spiraled deep beneath the keep. The air grew colder with every step. Damp stone walls pressed inward, etched with ancient runes that faintly glowed blue containment spells. Wards woven into the bones of the mountain itself. Aurelia felt the magic immediately, old, powerful. And fraying, Kale walked ahead of her, sword now drawn, not ceremonial steel. This blade hummed with energy, silver veins running through obsidian metal. You don't trust me with the truth, she said quietly as they descended. His steps didn't slow. I don't trust anyone with it. That includes your mate. The word lingered in the narrow stairwell. He finally stopped, turned. Moonlight from a narrow window above caught the hard planes of his face. You are my greatest strength, he said, voice low, which also makes you my greatest vulnerability. Her pulse stuttered. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Before she could press further, a scream echoed from below. Not human, not wolf, something in between. Kale moved again faster now. The lower corridor came into view, and it was chaos. Iron bars twisted outward, runes shattered, blue light flickered violently along cracked stone. 2 Draven guards lay unconscious against the wall. At the end of the corridor, a figure stood, tall, thin, draped in torn black robes, silver, white hair cascading down her back. Her eyes, glowing violet, one of the witches, she smiled slowly as Kale approached. Well, she purred, voice echoing unnaturally. The cursed king finally descends. Kale's jaw tightened. You should still be bound, Selene. So, she had a name. Selene's gaze slid past him to Aurelia. Interest flared in those violet eyes. And you, Selene whispered. The lost key. Aurelia felt the words like a physical touch. I am not a key, she said evenly. Selene laughed. Oh, child, you are far more than that. Kale stepped forward, sword raised. End this. But Selene didn't attack. She tilted her head. Does she know? The witch asked softly. Kale went still. Know what? Aurelia demanded. Selene's smile widened, that the curse upon his bloodline wasn't punishment. Silence thickened. It was protection. The air shifted. Aurelia felt it. The bond between her and Kale pulsed sharply. Selene continued, circling slowly within the broken cell. The High Alpha line was bound generations ago by witch blood. No true mate, no fated bond, no vulnerability. Her gaze sharpened on Kale. Until you, Aurelia's chest tightened. You said your bloodline was cursed. She whispered to him. It is, Selene laughed again. Oh, it is, but not the way he told you. Kale's voice dropped to lethal calm. Careful. Selene's eyes gleamed. The bond was sealed to prevent a prophecy. The word struck like thunder. Prophecy? Aurelia's wolf stirred violently inside her. What prophecy? She demanded. Selene's gaze locked onto hers. When the cursed king finds his true mate, their union will either end the witch dominion forever. Her smile turned razor sharp. Or burn the wolf world to ash. The torches flickered wildly. The temperature plummeted. Kale lunged. Selene moved like smoke, slipping from his strike and raising her hand. Dark energy surged. Aurelia felt it rushing toward Kale, and without thinking, she stepped in front of him. The magic slammed into her chest, white. Hot agony exploded through her veins. She screamed. Kale caught her before she hit the ground. Aurelia, her vision blurred, but she felt it. The bond, it didn't weaken. It blazed brighter. Silver and crimson threads spiraled around them, forming a shield that shimmered like molten light. Selene staggered backward. No, she hissed, that's impossible. The warding runes along the walls ignited in response to the bond's flare. Kale held Aurelia tightly, fury radiating from him like wildfire. You will not touch her, he growled. Selene's expression shifted not to fear, to calculation. You think she saved you? The witch said softly. No, Alpha King, she awakened you. The remaining torches burst into flame. Wind howled through the corridor, though there were no windows. Orlea forced herself upright in Cale's arms. Her body still burned, but not from pain, from power. It was coiling inside her, growing. You forged the letter, Orlea said, breath unsteady. You manipulated both packs. Seleni's lips curved. Division is easier than conquest, and the corrupted beast, a prototype. Lucian's horrified face flashed in Orlea's mind. They'll keep coming, Selene whispered, unless you choose wisely, little Luna. Choose what? Orlea demanded. Selene's eyes gleamed. Love or war? Cale didn't hesitate. He drove his blade through Selene's chest. Dark energy erupted outward in a shockwave. The witch screamed, not in pain, in rage. Her body disintegrated into spirals of black smoke that clawed upward and vanished into cracks in the ceiling. Silence fell. The broken runes dimmed. Cale's breathing was heavy. Orlea steadied herself against him. She wanted us divided, Cale said quietly. Yes. He looked down at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, the mask was gone. No king, no commander, just a man who nearly lost something he hadn't known he could have. You stepped in front of dark magic for me. You would have done the same, she replied. He didn't answer, because they both knew he would have done worse. Aftermath back above ground, the battle had ended. Vale and Draven warriors worked side by side, tending to the wounded. Lucian approached cautiously as Cale and Orlea emerged from the stairwell. Well, he asked. Cale met his gaze evenly. You were deceived. Lucian exhaled slowly. So were you. The truth hung heavy between them. Orlea stepped forward. This is bigger than our packs, she said. The witches want control. Lucian nodded reluctantly. And now they know about the bond. Cale's jaw hardened. They already did. Orlea looked at him sharply. You knew they were searching for a way to break your curse. Yes, and you didn't tell me. I didn't know if you were part of it. The words stung. But they were honest. Lucian shifted awkwardly. Father won't like this. Orlea's eyes softened slightly. Father nearly caused a war. And you nearly died. Cale added quietly. The moon was beginning to dip toward dawn. Orlea turned toward the horizon. The night had revealed truths she wasn't prepared for. Her father's desperation. The witch's manipulation. The prophecy. And Cale, he wasn't the cruel tyrant she'd imagined. He was a king carrying centuries of fear on his shoulders. And somehow she had become the center of it all. Cale stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. If the prophecy is real, it means we're dangerous together, she finished. His gaze darkened. Yes. A faint smile touched her lips. Good. For the first time, Cale smiled back. Not cruel, not cold, but wickedly alive. Then let them fear us. But far beyond the keep, in the ruins of an abandoned coven, violet eyes opened in the darkness. Selene was not gone. She was only beginning. The first night the war drums had fallen silent. The keep no longer shook with battle cries. Yet Orlea could not breathe easily. Dawn crept across the jagged peaks surrounding the obsidian fortress, staining the snowcaps in gold and blood, orange light. Below, Vale and Draven warriors shared the same courtyard, uneasy allies beneath fading moonlight. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like the beginning of something far more dangerous, because now everyone knew. The Alpha King had a true mate. And prophecy had awakened. Cale stood alone on the highest balcony of the keep. No crown, no guards. No armor. Just wind tearing through his dark hair as dawn broke over his kingdom. Orlea stepped out behind him, wrapped in a heavy fur cloak. She didn't announce herself. He already knew she was there. I can hear your heartbeat, he said quietly. She leaned against the stone railing beside him. Is it steady? For someone who threw herself into witch fire, yes. Silence lingered between them, not uncomfortable. Charged, you didn't sleep, she observed. Kings don't sleep when prophecy returns. Her jaw tightened. I am not a weapon. His gaze shifted to her immediately. I know. Do you? She challenged. Or am I simply the solution to your bloodline's curse? The wind howled between them. Cale's expression darkened, not in anger, in something deeper. You think I would reduce you to that? I think you are a king raised to survive, she replied. And survival makes monsters of men. His eyes flared faintly red. And what does it make of women? She held his stare. Stronger. Something almost like admiration passed over his face. You are nothing like I expected, he said. And you are nothing like the monster they sold me to. That word, sold, it hung heavy. Cale stepped closer. You were not purchased. Her chin lifted. My father offered me like livestock. And I would have burned his lands to the ground if you had been unwilling. She stilled. You would have started a war. Yes, the honesty stole her breath. I am many things, Orlia, he said, voice lowering. Cruel when necessary, ruthless when provoked, but I do not force bonds. The air shifted again, the mate, bond pulsed. Stronger this time. It wasn't just heat anymore. It was gravity, pulling, drawing, demanding. Her wolf stirred restlessly beneath her skin. Cale felt it too. His breathing changed. Orlia, the way he said her name, low, almost reverent, made her pulse race. This bond, she whispered, it's getting stronger. Yes, why? His eyes darkened. Because we haven't completed it. Her breath hitched. The marking ceremony had sealed the bond in spirit, but not in body, not fully, not irrevocably, the first night. Wolf Law demanded it. Her stomach tightened. You think consummating it will stabilize the magic? She asked. I think avoiding it is making it volatile. As if to prove his point, a spark of silver light flickered between their hands where they hovered inches apart. Uncontrolled, unstable, the prophecy was reacting, the curse was unraveling, and they stood at the center of it. If we do this, she said carefully, it is not for politics, no. Not for prophecy, no. Her voice softened. Then why? Cale stepped into her space, close enough that she felt his heat through layers of fur and silk. Because I want you, he said. No games, no manipulation, no royal composure, just truth, and it terrified her more than war ever had. Her chamber had been prepared hours ago. Candles burned low. Moonlight streamed through towering arched windows, casting silver across black marble floors. The bed, vast and draped in dark velvet, felt less like a place of rest and more like an altar. Orlia stood near the window, heart racing. She had imagined this night differently once. Soft, tender, chosen, not born from war and prophecy. The door closed behind her. Cale entered slowly, not like a conqueror, like a man approaching something sacred. For a moment, neither moved. The air was thick with awareness. You can still refuse, he said quietly. She turned toward him, and if I do, the bond will continue to intensify. It may begin to lash out. A faint crackle of silver light danced across the floor between them. As if summoned by her hesitation, her wolf pressed forward, not with fear, with longing. It wasn't submission. It was recognition. She walked toward him slowly, each step deliberate. You are not cruel, she said softly. His jaw tightened. I have done cruel things, yes. She reached him, but not to me. Her hand lifted to his chest. His heart pounded beneath her palm, strong, unsteady, real. You feel it too, she whispered, every second. The bond flared brilliant and blinding. His hand cupped her face again, just as it had during the marking. But this time there was no audience. No ceremony, just them. When his lips met hers, the world disappeared. Not a gentle kiss, not hesitant. It was fire meeting flame, raw, desperate, inevitable, the mate. Bond surged violently, silver and crimson light spiraling around their bodies like living threads. She gasped against his mouth as heat flooded her veins. Not pain, not dominance, unity. His hand slid to her waist, steady but reverent. He broke the kiss only long enough to look at her. Say my name, he murmured, Cale. It sounded different now. Sacred, he lifted her effortlessly, carrying her toward the bed as moonlight bathed them in silver. The moment their bodies met fully, the curse shattered. There was no explosion, no scream, just a wave of ancient magic rippling outward from the keep like a heartbeat finally finding rhythm. Far beyond the mountains which runes burned, seals cracked, and something very old awoke. Back in the chamber, Orlia arched as power surged through her. But she wasn't overwhelmed. She was anchoring it, balancing it. His strength did not consume her, it amplified her. And for the first time in centuries, the high alpha line was no longer cursed. It was whole. Cale pressed his forehead to hers as the bond sealed completely. "You are not my weakness," he breathed. She smiled against his lips. "I am your equal." And he knew she was right. The omen later, much later, as dawn bled once more into the sky, Aurelia lay against Cale's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. Peace lingered in the chamber, but only for a moment. A sudden shockwave rippled through the keep, not violent. Resonant like something answering their union. Cale went still. Aurelia felt it too. The bond shifted. Not unstable, stronger, ancient, awakened. A guard's urgent knock shattered the quiet. "Alpha?" Cale sat up instantly. "What is it?" The eastern forests. The guard's voice trembled. "The dead trees are blooming." Aurelia's breath caught. Dead forests did not bloom. Not in winter. Not overnight. Cale looked at her slowly. "Your power," he said. She shook her head. "No." But deep down she felt it. Something had changed in the world, not just between them. The prophecy had moved forward, and they had no idea whether they had just saved their world or doomed it.